Good morning, good afternoon, and good night to my cousins around the world. Chow, we're about to get into some things today because New York Magazine put out a hit piece on MAGA influencers, and I have a lot to say about it. Also, Selena Gomez posted a clip of her crying in 4K, and I can't tell if she's trying to finally get that Oscar or if she is just so deranged as to really think that we need to feel sorry for illegal immigrants getting deported. Because I promise you, I slept very well last night. Also, the big news over the weekend was Colombia learning that when you F around, you will most definitely find out in these next 4 years. Furthermore, I'll be answering the question slash allegation of, am I a transphobe? And to close out the show, we have a very heavy list for our Goofy of the day. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Welcome to Respectfully Xavier. So by now you guys have probably seen this video that is going everywhere of Selena Gomez crying about illegal immigrants. Can we go ahead and play that clip?
I just want to say that I'm so sorry. All my people are getting attacked. The children. I don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything, I promise.
It's the crocodile Birkin denim tears for me. Like, girl, First of all, can I just address this from the point of a content creator? There is no such thing as one take unless you're live, like we are here on Respectfully. You do not make a video without going through, trimming it, making sure the lighting is good. You still have to add a caption. So you're telling me that Selena Gomez just made this video and is trying to act like this was authentic and she posted it? No, this was for attention or to try to make it seem like she actually cares about the world. But the thing that annoys me, before we even get into the immigration aspect of this, I want to talk about why Selena Gomez irritates my soul. This woman is a constantly pathetic serial victim. And that's a crazy thing to say about a woman that is a self-made billionaire. But this is the queen of putting herself into insane situations and then playing the victim. I'd say actually maybe she's the empress. The only person that's the queen of that is probably Taylor Swift, but Selena Gomez is right up with her bestie. I have been annoyed with Selena ever since she was constantly harassing Justin Bieber and all up in his business. Like, I get it. That was your first love. You guys spent all these years together. Like, you really want to be with Justin Bieber. Like, yes, she's recently engaged to Benny Blanco with his ugly self, no shade, but you clearly have always loved Justin, and that's why you're always butting yourself into his business. Like, it still bothers me how when Justin Bieber was dating Sophia Richie, a very sweet girl, shout out to Diane Richie, her mother, very nice lady, one of my first supporters when I started making content. Sophia Richie was upset that she was getting harassed by Justin Bieber's relentless believers, and Selena Gomez was all up in Justin's business when Justin tried to defend her and said that he wants to protect the people that he loves and to stop harassing the person that he loves because everybody was attacking Sophia for not being Selena. Here comes Selena being like, if you care about her, like, why post her? You shouldn't post her, keep it private. What? And then telling Justin how he needed to treat his fans. It's like, girl, mind your business. Selena Gomez is the same woman who for 5 years allowed her fans to relentlessly attack Hailey Bieber unprovoked for no reason. Because the reason is because Selena still wanted to be with Justin. And I get it. There might have been a pretty short time period between Justin and Selena breaking up for the final time, but obviously that final time was all that it took for him to realize that he didn't want you, Selena. There's plenty of people who do. But she still allowed her fans to harass Hailey to the point of threatening her life and stalking her before she finally put out this dry statement pretending like she actually cared. But she continues to build up the narrative to this day that Justin Bieber is this horrible person. And because of that, Selena Gomez, I already had limited respect for you. On top of that, this is the same girl who some years ago, because Selena has a lot of health issues. She has an issue with lupus, which was giving her kidney failure. And let's not forget that when Selena Gomez needed a new kidney, her roommate at the time, her best friend Francia, gave her her kidney. And the reason that these two fell out is because Selena Gomez took this woman's kidney, in fact, kind of pressured her into getting the kidney. Oh, yes, let's get into that tea. The doctors violated HIPAA law by telling Selena that Francia had the same blood type or whatever is required for her to give a kidney. Let Selena know before Francia even knew, and then was the one to inform her friend, like, hey, so you're giving me that kidney. So she gave her this kidney, and then she went and was drinking on her friend's kidney. Not just like having a sip here and there. This girl was drinking heavily, making jokes about being a borderline alcoholic on her best friend's kidney, and then cut her off afterwards. Refers to that girl as the girl who gave me a kidney. Imagine your best friend gave you a kidney and you can't even refer by her own name. She even went as far as saying that the only friend she has in the industry is Taylor Swift. So this girl that gave you a kidney is not a friend. This was just a girl you used for her organs. So all this to say, I already have been looking at Selena go sideways. But now, getting into this whole immigration thing. So I looked into it. I'm like, so why is it that Selena Gomez is so passionate that she is crying in 4K about these illegal immigrants? Well, come to find out, she is the descendant of illegal immigrants. She is quoted in Time saying, in the 1970s, my aunt crossed the border from Mexico to the United States, hidden in the back of a truck. She began, my grandparents followed, and my father was born in Texas after. In 1992, I was born a U.S. citizen thanks to their bravery and sacrifice. No, you were not born because of their bravery and sacrifice. You were born because of their crime. You were born because they crossed the border illegally and should not have been here. You were born because your grandparents didn't respect our country enough to follow by the rules and come here through the proper process, and now you are reaping up all the benefits from it. And it has gone on long enough. So while Selena tries to have empathy for these illegal immigrants and acts like, oh, they should all just be allowed to cross, no, they shouldn't. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm at the point where even the grandkids of people who are born here need to start being sent back. I'm sorry. We have way too many people who do not respect our country and do not respect the process of our country. And I do not have sympathy for them. I understand you might be escaping a bad situation, but you can't come to our country and make a worse situation for us. You don't even go here. But then Selena, when asked about, why she's so emotional, she went and said that these people basically are capturing the hope, the optimism, and patriotism that so many undocumented immigrants still hold in their hearts despite the hell that they go through. So again, you are not being patriotic if you can't respect the rules and the process that we have in this country. And when we look at the way that immigration, illegal immigration particularly, because I think immigration is a great thing when you follow the process, when we look at the way that illegal immigration has harmed our country, it really, really irritates my soul. Let me take a sip of my tea real quick. Selena Gomez, since you want to cry about wanting to protect illegal immigrants, I want to know, where were your tears at when Laken Riley, the 22-year-old girl in Georgia, was on a run and was kidnapped, nearly sexually violated by this illegal immigrant who had already been in the country committing crimes and let go? He murdered her in cold blood and cut her life short. Where were your tears at then, Selena? Selena Gomez, where were your tears at when the 18-year-old teenage girl that I personally knew in the San Francisco Bay Area witnessed human trafficking? She went to the police. She told them that she saw people that she ended up finding out were illegal immigrants, were out human trafficking. So it was such a shady situation that she had to go into hiding. These illegal immigrants found where she was, went and gang violated her, traumatized her so much that she drove 10 hours to tell her mother what she saw and what she experienced. She was so traumatized from the situation that she took her own life. Where were your tears at then, Selena Gomez? Where were your tears at, since you love these illegal immigrants so much? Where were your tears at when 70,000 Americans have died every single year for many years in a row now from the illegal substances, especially and particularly fentanyl, have been brought into our country? Oh yeah, I know where you were. You were sitting at home, comfortably counting your billions of dollars while benefiting from the crimes that your grandparents committed. Selena Gomez, your empathy is merely a reflection of your own self-centeredness, and you will never be able to convince me otherwise with those crocodile tears. Next. Oh yes, we laugh on the show, but we also get dead serious, especially when we talk about something like illegal immigration, because this is something, as you can tell, really bothers me, that you have so many people who might intend to be good-hearted and intend to want to say, oh, no human is illegal. Yes, you are. You made yourself illegal by coming here, because let us go to one of their countries. Let us go to their countries without a visa or without the proper paperwork. Half of these people would behead us. Moving along. Since we're talking about standing on business, I have to give a shout out to President Donald J. Trump, because Colombia found out really quick that when you F around with America, you will soon find out. So Colombia, we sent a whole bunch of planes of these criminals that were Colombian back to Colombia. And what had happened was Colombian President Gustavo tried to say, oh no, you can't bring these criminals here, not because they're Colombians and they won't accept them, but because you're not allowed to treat my people like they're criminals. But they are. So I really don't understand why this Colombian president had the audacity to say that we're supposed to treat criminals like they're people that we should be caring for and giving a silver spoon. How about you give them a silver spoon in your own country? So Donald J. Trump took the liberty to immediately crack down on some he was like 25% tariff here, and it's going to be 50% within a week, cracking down on visas, basically telling them, like, you want to act funny, we can act hilarious. We are going to make it a living hell for these Colombians trying to import their goods and to bring their leadership here to our country with all of these sanctions and tariffs, because you will not take back your illegal immigrants. Because what do you mean you're not going to accept your criminals that we went out of our way to fly back to you? So now he learned very quickly, switched his tune around, and is sending his own presidential planes to come and pick up his criminals. That's the kind of leadership I'm talking about. And what makes it so much more alpha is that Donald Trump did all of this while playing golf. Playing golf and putting your foot on a foreign leadership's neck is probably one of the most iconic things I ever seen. And let me clarify, these are my own personal thoughts. PragerU is a 501c3 nonprofit, and they do not endorse any candidates. However, I think it's funny as hell that he really put his foot on their neck while playing golf. But this is what it takes to be respected. You have to lead with strength. You can't be this, oh, like, can you please take your immigrants back? It's like, no, take back your criminals, keep them in your own dusty, musty prison cells, because we have enough criminals here. In fact, I'm so pro mass incarceration. We got a few people who need to be in these jail cells, but they're being taken up by people who don't even have the documentation and the birth certificates to be in our jail cells. And being in jail is very expensive. And that's another thing that people don't talk about enough. Being in a U.S. prison or jail cell is a lot of U.S. tax dollars. So I am so glad that we are just shipping these people back instead of holding them here in America, because we have seen enough of their crime and enough of the chaos that they bring to our country. Now, something else that broke over the weekend that everybody is talking about today is this hit piece from New York Mag that is basically trying to make us all look like the craziest people in the world over on the right. So first of all, let's bring up this cover. I have to say, and JD Vance said it low-key trying to make us look cool, because when I saw this, I'm always rooting for the villain. I love Regina George. I love the plastics table. So when New York Mag said that this is the Cruel Kids table with a photo from, shout out again to my friend CJ Pearson from his Power 30 Awards party, saying that we are the cruel kids. Now, what makes the context of this even crazier is that the journalist who wrote this hit piece actually hit me up about a month ago, and I saw it just like a week before going to the inauguration weekend to see like who was hitting me up for press out there. And this guy from New York Mag, his name is Brock, he told me that he wanted to showcase how fun conservatives were and how he knew that all these cool parties were on, and he knew that Xavier's on the list, respectfully. And, oh, not me. I gotta stop saying respectfully on this show. That is so corny. But he reached out to me saying that he wanted to follow me around to the different events that I was going to and for me to get him on lists. Now, I should have already just peeped that, and I did in fairness. I had a feeling that this could potentially backfire. I didn't do too much, but I did tell him, I'm like, okay, like I really want to be in New York Mag, to be honest. So I'll take you to one event, and he was already on the list somehow. He somehow managed to be on the list for CJ's Power 30 Awards. And I told him that I was going to bring him to the Spotify VIP party. So, what was interesting is when I requested to bring him to the Spotify party, at first they said yes, but then they immediately ended up putting Brock on this blacklist with a huge photo of his face on a computer when you walk in, of people who are not allowed to attend this event or to interview anyone around the proximity. And that to me was really alarming. But when I was asking people, like, does anybody know why, like, he became persona non grata so quickly? Nobody really had an answer for me, but they all kind of gave me this look of, don't find out. Don't find out. So after that, I was like, okay, let me stop going out of my way to get him access to different events because I didn't really know what was going on. However, he was super nice to me and continues to be really nice to me. So you would not believe how appalled, shooketh, and mortified I was when I finally saw the headline and the context of this magazine article. So let me pull this whole thing up, child, because I had to print this out. And let me sip my tea again. I was in Utah over the weekend. I am damn near sick. So, the cruel kids table. Among the young, confident, and casually cruel Trumpers who, after conquering Washington, have their sights set on America. It's like, okay, so this is how we're starting. This is how we're starting the whole thing off. And I do want to say that there were some positives in here. And there were, I guess, a little bit of compliments that he gave to the conservative movement and just talking about like the types of people that he meant there. Like some of the things that I do want to highlight, because again, there were some positives in here. He talks about basically how conservatives have become much more mainstream. He even shouted out how people like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos are all now aligning with conservatives. How people like Carrie Underwood, The Village People, Snoop Dogg, Jewel, even Kim Kardashian are now embracing conservatives and conservative culture. Because for a long time, we were just like, it was like we had the cheese touch, if you know that reference, if you watch Diary of a Wimpy Kid. It's like these people who are, you're going to be disgusting and you're going to just be blackballed and banned from everywhere if you even associate with them in the slightest regard. So to have all these huge mainstream characters, again, like shout out to Amber Rose, who has a beautiful cover on Maxim magazine that just got announced today. You have all these different mainstream characters that are now being align with conservative ideas and conservative people. So we did highlight that and the fact that these kind of people were at the inauguration. He also talked a bit about how now the normal gays are appreciated and welcome into the events. There was even a point where he talked about how the log cabin Republicans, how they didn't have their own event this year because they no longer need to create their own spaces. Essentially, they are now able to be a part of mainstream conservative spaces and nobody really thinks anything of it. And I do think that shows, again, the good progress that conservatives have made, where there is a lot more just, I guess, acceptance and tolerance. You know, there are people out there, shout out to Bryson Gray, who definitely would argue that that's not a good thing. But it does show that the right wing has become a lot more just expansive. There's a lot more people from backgrounds that are not just old, rich, white Republicans that are aligning with conservative values now. And then he even goes to say how so many conservatives are hot. He said that the men look like peak Hegseth in bow ties and black suits with clean-shaven faces. The women are almost all out of their leagues. As I was once informed, these young conservative parties are 80% men and 20% the most beautiful women you've ever seen, which is pretty much tea. That is pretty much tea. He later says that the men who were there were attractive enough to be the next American Psycho. So again, he made us all look young, hot, rich, and famous. I guess that was like the props that he gave us in this article. But then it gets into all the shadiness that he talked about too. So in that same breath where he talked about us being attractive and looking like, you know, Pete Hegseth and the most beautiful women you've ever seen, he says that almost everyone is white. Now, this is the headline that is really getting everybody talking, because what do you mean almost everyone is white? And what I realized when looking back, he went as far as saying multiple times throughout the article about all these white people that were there and how someone made a statement saying that notice how everyone is white, which I do not believe that. I have been around the conservative movement for like 4.5 years now, and there is no one that's going around being like, notice all these white folk around here. They don't do that. The only people who are always just hyper fixating on race are people on the left. That is not a thing that is happening in the conservative movement. So I really don't believe that that statement was made, because there's a few statements that I think are far-fetched, a couple that I'll get into that are unhinged that I 100% believe were said, and we'll debrief those. But I do not think that there was someone who really walked up to him and said that. But the elephant in the room that he failed to address is that this party was hosted by somebody black. CJ Pearson is one of the blackest people that I have ever met in my life. Shout out to Carrico Jaquan Pearson, CJ Pearson, the legend you are, former PragerU personality, and a big friend to this day. Always a family member of PragerU, good friend of mine. He hosted the Power 30 Awards. And what was interesting is that the journalist never once mentioned CJ by name, and the fact that CJ hosted this party because it would go against the narrative that this party of conservatives was all white. See how the left does? See how conservatives love to just dance around the talking points that they do not want to address. They also mentioned me multiple times in the article because I was an honoree at the event, but they conveniently leave out the fact that I am black. I'm blickety black. I am darker than Kelly Rowland. So how can you not just like acknowledge that there were so many black people there? And then and shout out to my friend Rob Smith. Rob Smith is an OG in this industry. He was also there. We have a picture together with the icon herself, Riley Gaines, and the queen herself, Paula Scanlon. So it's like, you knew that there were all kinds of people of color and minority groups there. You even acknowledged yourself how there was this demographic of like all these different normal gays there. So it's like, you know that there was diversity in the room, but you tried to make it seem like there wasn't. And that's what I do not respect in shady journalism. And what he also did with this cover, let's pull up the original cover again, and y'all are gonna gag when you see this. So this is what really has people talking. Here's the normal cover, or this is the original cover of the New York Magazine article. Now let's pull up the original photo that he cropped. Look at that. Ooh, can you see it? Black people. There are black people in the room. Multiple black people. And if you squint, I know a 4C curl when I see it. If you look behind the word table, there's another black person there. So just within this one photo, I'm seeing 4 black people, and a handful of these people could pass as something else. I don't even know those people are white. So, and again, I wouldn't care about the race if it wasn't for the fact that you tried to make it seem like it's all these white people. There are plenty of black people in the room, but you cut them out for this strategic photo, which is insane to me, which shows to me that you couldn't find a single photo where there wasn't someone else that was of color in the room. So you strategically cropped this one out. And now everybody's talking about it. Elon Musk even posted this meme that is like so directly what's happening here. Can we pull up that meme really quick? Do we not have it? Okay, we might not have it, but Elon Musk posted this funny meme where basically it was cutting off just like what's happening on the expanded version of the picture versus what you see in the camera. And that is the type of it's just a lack of integrity. JD Vance was also talking all about this situation and saying how insane this is. So shout out to Jadarius Vance for acknowledging that once again, they're trying to make us look crazy, but low-key, they're making us look cool. Now, what I will say, in Brock's defense, this journalist, some of the picture that he painted of conservatives, I almost can't blame him because some of y'all were doing too much. Like, you need to understand, this is my message to conservatives, especially conservative influencers. There is a time and place to be crazy and unhinged. There were people saying the wildest thing to this reporter. And while I'm not for censorship, I'm all for free speech, but you need to know how to read the room. We just barely, by the skin of our teeth, are winning back culture. So don't do too much. When you have a reporter that visibly, I should have given you guys a picture of what Brock looks like. This reporter is so visibly a liberal. So when you're talking to this mainstream media outlet, you don't want to say crazy things that are just going to make us all look bad, because that's how we lose culture as quickly as we want it. Like, I have a couple that I highlighted here. Somebody said tomorrow, this was non-lip take, girl, Aaron Wexler, I'm talking to you, because that's my friend, but you were doing too much. You told New York Mag, tomorrow we're going to have images of them rounding up illegals and deporting them. That's exciting. Did you lie? No, but you're doing too much. You're doing way too much. And then she had the nerve. She called the reporter to his face a man in lipstick. The man wasn't even wearing lipstick, girl. So now you got us looking crazy. What else was said? What else was said in here? A woman, I don't know who this woman was, but some woman told this reporter that she, and again, I have dark humor, so I find this to be a key, but you can't do too much. She said that she jumped the velvet rope into the VIP section like a little Mexican and then let out a cackle. I can't stand y'all. I really cannot stand y'all. And then there were a couple things that were just straight up lies that I also need to clock. So at one point, the journalist said that TikTok, because a little more context. So this party was co-hosted by TikTok. And as we talked about in the first episode, TikTok is now partnering with conservatives and platforming conservatives like never before. And he quoted a TikTok policy representative saying that we are letting a lot more stuff through. A lot. A lie, because he reached out to me to confirm who it was that said that, and it was actually my friend David, who used to work with TikTok but has not worked with TikTok in months. And David worked more on the advertising side than he did in the policy side. He did help with some of the initial policy, but David did not, or does not work in policy. David Puentes is not a TikTok employee currently at the time of this video and at the time of that interview. So the fact checking was not done. So in TikTok's defense, TikTok is not just randomly letting a lot of hate speech through, because what you're trying to do, Brock, the journalist, is trying to make it seem like TikTok needs to be cracked down on and that they're just letting everything slide now. And that is not the case. So some other things that were talked about, let's see. So they did talk about how I mentioned that, you know, the weekend was Republican Coachella and Donald Trump is our Beyonce. I didn't lie. And they talked about one thing that I want to highlight here. So it says one honoree of the night was DeRusso, whose TikTok is full of sometimes transphobic rants for a target audience he describes as Beverly Hills conservatives. So I want to address this narrative in full as we move on along here. So I get asked and accused all the time of being transphobic. And that is, you know, to me, a pretty crazy narrative to spread, because I don't hate anybody just based on their demographic. I just want common sense to be restored. And I think that this is particularly a good time to finally talk about this conversation, because there are times where I have empathy and then there's times where I just don't, because y'all do too much. So right now there's this conversation going on about how President Trump is likely going to put in policy in an executive order soon to make it to where trans women, so biological men who are identifying as women, putting them into biological men's prisons. So first, again, starting with the positive, I want to talk about the two situations in which I have empathy. So I have empathy for people with gender dysphoria legitimately. And something that I've learned from talking to a lot of transgender people is that people with real gender dysphoria, the medical mental illness of gender dysphoria, they do not want anybody to know that they have gender dysphoria. So when you see these trans activists online that are bragging about their 5 o'clock shadow or their little bump showing down there, that is not gender dysphoria, because that's like someone who's anorexic bragging about how fat they are. Like that, mental health just does not work that way. So when you have these people who from a young age, like literally day one, they really do have this crippling fear that they are not in the right body, I have empathy for you. And I think that, you know, in this free country, as an adult, I can at least respect if you take the steps to identify as the way that makes you happy. And maybe as a teenager, if you're putting on a wig or whatever it is, you know, do what it is that makes you happy. But when it comes to having these medical procedures and hormone blockers and all of this, you are begging for a plethora of just medical conditions and issues that are just really disheartening. If you guys go and look on my Instagram, you'll see a video I posted like a week or two ago where this disabled person in a wheelchair even went and had a double mastectomy and cut off both of her breasts and can barely even speak, yet got a double mastectomy. It's like you are just giving yourself more and more health complications. But that's, again, in the category of people that my empathy is limited, because is that actually gender dysphoria, or are you doing this to be performative? But back to the prisons, particularly when it comes to prisons, I have empathy when you have someone like, let's say, I'm not going to say names, I don't know these people's business. If you have a transsexual woman that has gone through the operations and now has an artificial hole, let's just put it that way, is getting put into a men's prison, that to me is concerning. And I feel like the solution to that is to have like an alternative lifestyle prison where it's people of that particular lifestyle. I know there are a lot of prisons out there like that, so that they can all be together. Because if you take someone that completely looks and presents like, and is harder to tell or pass as an actual woman, even though they're clearly not, I do have empathy in those situations. Like, that to me is scary. But when I don't is when you have people who, like, look at this person up here. That is so clearly a man. Like, just because you grew out your hair doesn't justify that you're going to be in a women's prison. So it's these kind of people that make it harder for me to have empathy for the people who go through the actual procedures. Now, that being said, if you are going to identify in this alternative lifestyle, you're going to go through all these procedures, you're going to get the hormone blockers, and you may or may not do the surgery, you have now made yourself subject to the risk of, if you are in prison, you're going to be in a really terrible situation for yourself. So you that much more need to take accountability and not be out there committing crimes. I don't know why so many people act like it is so difficult to not go to jail or to not go to prison. Obeying the law is a really easy thing to do, especially when people try to be like, oh, well, what about the black, trans, whatever? It's like, I have been black for 28 years and never once have I been close to going to jail or going to prison. Why? Because I obey the law. Why? Because I get up and I go to work. Why? Because I know how to act and I don't do too much. But a lot of y'all are doing too much. So no, to answer this whole question, I do not feel that I'm a transphobe. I just want clear common sense boundaries that protect women at spaces and protect children, get women out of their or get men out of women's sports. And I just want to have some common sense legislation put forth. Maybe if you're going to have this situation of like the bathrooms and the prisons, anything and all of that, there needs to be a more clear-cut system, in my opinion, that declares when you have gone so far to a certain point to be in an alternative lifestyle, rather than just putting a trans woman in a biological women's prison and making all these women subject to that extra layer of violence. Now, moving on along, I want to talk about this article that came out recently of how lazy the media has gotten. So Breitbart has this article, and I actually talked about this on Lara Trump's show, The Right View. That episode is dropping later tonight, where these media elites are whining that they're exhausted, that just 5 days into Trump's presidency, that they are exhausted of all the work that they have to do. Like Kim Kardashian said, nobody wants to work these days. So you're telling me that the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, Atlantic, New York Magazine, The Guardian, Politico, NPR, and Huffington Post have all had some of their journalists and executives and columnists, etc., come forward saying that Trump is putting in so much work and doing so many policies that it feels like 24 covers, that they're overworked? What? If you don't quit your job and let somebody who's actually hungry for that position come and take that job, because what do you mean that there's too much for you to write about? If anything, you should be out here getting your bag. Nobody wants to work, and it shows me just how comfortable y'all were being lazy. It shows me the comfortability that y'all had not doing any work. And it's funny to me because has anybody else noticed this? This really annoys me. When an article comes out, the exact same article verbatim is just plastered across all the outlets. It used to be like all these different news outlets would say something different or have a different take. But now it's like you'll see one article on New York Magazine, for example, and that same article is on MSNBC, it's on Yahoo, it's on all the different blogs. They just copy and paste and just use the same one. It's like, are y'all that lazy that you just plagiarize each other? And obviously it's done legally, like they have a partnership with each other, but it just shows the lack of work ethic that these mainstream media outlets have. And it also shows that they're all in cahoots of spreading the same narrative. Whenever there is a message sent out from the powers that be, all of the media outlets might tweak a word or two in the headline, but still will push the exact same narrative because they're all lazy. They're all just in cahoots. And this is why influencers and conservative influencers and political influencers are becoming the go-to for people to learn what's actually happening in politics, what's actually happening in culture, because we all have different opinions. We all have something different and unique to say, and we're all going to give you the information in real time rather than getting a message from our handlers telling us what we need to plaster out to the public. So to all the mainstream media outlets that are lazy, your 4-year lunch break is over. Now, speaking of 4-year lunch break, somebody that has not taken a break from lunch in a very, very long time is our goofy of the day, who happens to be a very, very heavy lift. So let's talk about this big-backed woman. So Lyft just had this scandal of this big-backed woman who tried to get into a Lyft, but she was so big that the driver told her that she was not going to fit into the car. And to nobody's surprise, Lyft is standing side by side with this woman of width who feels discriminated against because she was not allowed in the car. Can we go ahead and play the video of this interaction?
What?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
What? For what? What you saying?
Yeah, I got no space in my car is small.
I can fit in this car.
No, believe me, you can.
Yes, I can.
Believe me. So, I'm sorry.
What I'm gonna do about my money?
I'm gonna cancel it. You're not gonna be charged.
So you telling me I can't get in the Lyft because I can't fit in your car?
Yeah, you need to order a bigger car.
What makes you think I can't fit in the car?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
What makes you think I can't?
And I feel so bad for the driver because the driver is trying so hard to be nice to this woman of width and not tell her, like, girl, you are 1,000 pounds pushing it at least. You cannot fit in this person's car. I am so tired of these entitled people because there is a thyroid issue, and there's one thing to have a thyroid issue, and then there's people who just do not push the plate away, because there is no excuse for you to be this big ever. Like, ever. You do not need to be that big. And for you to think that people need to accommodate and damage their vehicle and break their tire access or wheel access because you want to get your big self in the car, that is insane. So you, Miss Ma'am, are the goofy of the day, and you are sad. This is really sad to me that you care so little about your life, because I really do feel like your physical presentation is a reflection of how you feel about yourself, and you care so little about yourself that you have allowed yourself to get to this point. Because again, even if you have a thyroid issue, even if you have a condition where you can't work out, you can eat a vegetable. And what you're not going to do, what you're not going to convince me is that you didn't go out of your way to get that big. And this woman, to close out the show, because this show has been up and down when it comes to craziness and heaviness and some seriousness, I want to end with something that's a little, again, you know, I shouldn't even say that it's funny, but the woman of width, our goofy of the day, reminded me of this video. I just want to say this. If you guys ever see me sitting there being quiet, just know that I am thinking about this woman. I am thinking about this woman who took an entire pan of lasagna to her room as a late lunch. Can we play this throwback clip from my 600-pound life?
All the weight gain slowed down when I went back to school. And I wasn't eating as much, but I was still finding ways to sneak food and eat the way that I wanted. And so I put on another 100 pounds in the next 5 years. And I was around 250 when I was 13. And when it got like that was when my mom started to really point out my size. My mother would constantly comment on my weight. Like,
okay, now watching it back, I feel bad for laughing because it's one of those things. It's not funny. I'm laughing, but I'm dead serious. This is sad, but this is the kind of culture that is out of control. So when we look at people like this woman of width, we look at these people who are on planes feeling entitled to get a second seat. When we look at people like this taking an entire pan of lasagna to your room, an entire pan of lasagna in one sitting is insane. This is the type of culture that we need to stop glamorizing and romanticizing and elevating. And I just hate even the premise of my 600-pound life, because why are we celebrating people that are this out of control, who have this little regard for what is going on with their own health? This is why we need to make America healthy again. And that's all I got to say about that. So again, thank you guys for tuning in to our second episode of Respectfully. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Go over to PragerU.com where we have all sorts of educational videos. You can make a tax-deductible donation today and subscribe to PragerU as well. Again, I love you guys. You're all my cousins, and I am out.